All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of Moonhawk Studios Presents, now with TikTok Live Edition. I am your host, Mac Paladin. And in the distance, because they're being broadcast through dollar store speakers, is my crew, led by my good friend, Adam.
I don't know what you're talking about. I have a proper streamer microphone here.
Yes, but on TikTok, they can't hear that because you're coming through dollar store speakers. We got Kevin in the hizzy.
Sort of over here. Hi, and I'm listening to all of you via Beats headphones. Hopefully someday you'll be able to get that kind of quality.
That's right. Petty fan on technicals on the Twitchy side of things.
The internal screaming will continue until morale improves.
Emphasis on Twitchy. And of course we have the Golics.
Hi.
All right. So, we have a great show for you tonight, allegedly. But before we get to that, let's start the news. Adam, what have you got?
Let's see. Had to deal with a washing machine breaking down this week because bleach and Florida weather are not a good combination. The new one gets installed tomorrow.
Better than having to use the friggin' laundromat for an extended period of time.
Or washing them with the alligators in the swamp.
Gators are just angry river puppies. It's the crocodiles in Australia you want to watch out for.
I wouldn't mess with either.
Oh, come on, Gator McClure.
You want to mess with Chompy.
Yeah. We're trained professional idiots over here, folks. Don't attempt any of these maneuvers at home.
Anyway, I had to reschedule a doctor's appointment for next week, so that's been my news.
All right, Kevin?
Yeah. I really, other than the normal routine, I don't have anything really going on around here. With that being Petty, what's going on in your world?
Oh God, where does the madness end?
Oh boy.
Here we go. Buckle up, folks.
I guess for fun stuff that I missed last week, I got my baclofen pump refilled. So, yay.
Oh boy. Yay.
That's actually a good thing, because that means it's every 6 months I go see it and get it refilled, which is better than,
Yeah.
So, yeah, according to the sheet that they gave me, there's like 67 months left on the battery on it, so...
Yay.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I'd much rather have this than having to take the oral pills every day, because I forget a lot, because ADHD sucks.
Welcome to my 47 and a half years.
So yeah, that's been handled, and I don't need to go back until March. And even then, I still have like a month buffer in case stuff happens and I can't go exactly on the date set.
There you go.
And then, oh God. So Monday, Mom finally got a job.
Huh.
She works at a local family guidance center. She's I believe, a scheduler, and she's currently temp to hire. So hopefully that works out for her.
Well, at least she's got something. Didn't seem like she was going to get anything for a bit.
Yeah, believe me.
Yeah.
And then as far as stuff going on, let's see. Early Sunday morning / late Saturday night, my sister sent me a text asking if I spilled any water from the desk that's in front of the air conditioner. Those of you who have window unit air conditioners probably realize where this is going.
Oh dear.
The air
boy.
conditioner decided it wanted to pour its drip tray not outside, but into the house on carpet.
I have a ceiling unit that likes to do that.
So, and unfortunately, this air conditioner is 15 feet off the ground in a second-story window. So
At least it's only coming out of the drip tray in the wrong place and not like coming out of...
No, it's the entire front. It basically was like somebody took kept taking a cup thing of water and pouring it out the front.
Okay, but at least like it's water that's supposed to be in there that's coming out.
It's not like
it's just coming out in the wrong place, as opposed to like actual mechanical internal leakage.
Yeah. So
that sounds like that's an exhausting phrase right there. Internal leakage.
We pulled out the hose to see if we can try and spray whatever is causing the drain to clog out. But unfortunately, because it's so far off the house, we don't have anything with enough pressure to really reach it well. We think we kind of have it at least okay, where it's only a partial obstruction. There's still like some water in there. So hopefully, as long as we can keep from coming in the house until we can either wait till my dad's hand is well enough to help us pull it out, because my sister and I, because of our disabilities, aren't strong enough to remove it from its casing. So we'll have to wait for our dad to be able to help us get it out, take it outside, and actually get some cleaning done to it, and maybe put a few more drain holes in it if we have to. And then even more fun things happened Monday night when I went to bed. There is an air conditioner in front of where the hide-a-bed is I've been sleeping on, because I can't use my real bed because legs are fucked up. It decided it wanted to dump water out the front too. At least that one is on ground level. So I've been hosing that out with this hose. And then I looked in the front of it and found there was what can best be described as slime in it. Yeah. Because it is underneath a covered porch, so it doesn't really get that much rain on it to like flush it out. So hopefully I got it vacuumed out well enough with our shop vac. But I also have like a flexible like a hose attachment that you usually use on dryers that I'm going to get in there and see if I can get around to get any more of that crap out. And also get some like food coloring, put a couple of drops in, and if the water dripping out the back is the color of the food coloring, then I know the drain is clear and we're good. If it's not, we have bigger problems.
Right.
So that's been fun. I believe I've mentioned my dad's fun work issues. He had the surgery last week. Well, not last week, but week before last. They took the stitches out too early, and he ripped his hand open again.
Ugh. Oh.
So yesterday, he finally saw the doctor again after a week of kept ripping his hand open, because he should have been on light duty for at least 2 to 3 weeks. They put him on full duty less than a week after the surgery.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, he is debating contacting an attorney for possibly malpractice, because he should not have been put on full duty this quickly.
No, he should not.
So that's something he's going to need to discuss. And he is actually off work tomorrow because of his hand. He now cannot use his hand at all at work, which is unfortunate because they have him on the computer, but he doesn't know how to use his left hand to type.
Uh-huh.
He's one of those old hunting pecks, but he only uses his right. So that's been fun. The air quotes on fun are like 3 miles wide here. So luckily they don't have a whole lot to do next week or tomorrow, so he's going to be off so he can help me with my other job that I need to do. I mentioned my pool issue where I had to get it serviced. They didn't replace the tubing for it because the issue was it was pushed too far up by the installer on the connector for the inlet. They're still charging me the $85 to fix because they fixed their mistake.
Good Lord.
So I'm going to go down to the pool company and have a chat because I have a camera in my backyard and it caught them in 4K, as the kids would say, basically fiddling with the tubing a little bit, but they didn't replace it. They didn't. If they would have at least took it off and like sticks and leaves fell off on it, sure, that's my bad. That probably wouldn't have been covered. But they didn't take it off. They just moved it back because of installer error.
What?
Yeah. So yeah, the issue with my tubing collapsing was not my fuck up. It was theirs.
Oh.
So I'm going to have a chat with them, especially because I just got the bill for it today. Nobody called. Nobody even knocked on the door when they came like 4 days ago. And they're billing for me they're billing me for this now, so I'm thinking somebody lied on a work order and said they replaced the tubing, but they didn't. So
did they charge for parts?
They didn't give me an itemized list. They just $85.
You should probably ask for an itemized list, if nothing else.
Yeah, I will look and see if there is one, because if it was just sticks and stuff came out and they could still reuse the tube, fine. I would pay for that because that's not something that should be covered under warranty. But installer mess up is. So this should have been a warranty related issue and I should not have been charged. So yeah, that's going to be a thing I have to deal with. And yeah, I think that's it from me. The story that never ends.
I'm watching you from my other channel here, and I can actually hear you guys fine. So that's not too bad, actually.
Yay!
All things considered, for a low-tech solution to our podcasting issues, this is starting out pretty well. I don't know what it is, but it's like it's like WCW versus NWO upstairs here.
That's a callback.
I was going to say, that's a reference that is old.
That was deliberate. Just to kind of evoke a sense here, you know?
We invoke something here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're allowed to know what the NWO was and also be on TikTok.
Jesus.
Hey, listen, it's the Gen X revolution, okay? All right, I'm a
Did you know
millennial.
that the WWF used to be wrestling?
Wrestling?
Yeah. Yeah, what I'm going to do next week is I'm actually going to do like we did where I dial in on both of my Discord channels, but I will have the audio on Mac Paladin muted.
Oh man!
So that way
we're not hearing you in stereo.
So right, so I will speak to you via Mac Paladin, but I won't hear you through that, and I will hear you through Mace Palladino, but I won't speak to you through that.
Kevin might like this one. In Living Keller.
Whoa! Whoa! I'm already in the void. I don't want to get canceled on top of that.
Different kind, but
yeah.
The old TV buffs know.
Yeah.
Deadpool and Wolverine references for the win.
Yeah.
All right. Was that everything you had? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah.
All right, Galix, your turn.
Well, I'm not sure if I'm legally allowed to have my voice on TikTok, but I have already interrupted other people, so that doesn't let me off.
Uh-oh.
My parents returned home from their trip safely, so that's nice. Everything is shipshape, and we're getting back to normal. I slept like crap the last 2 days, so I was starting to get worried, but then I realized when I was getting ready to go to work today that it's because I had forgotten to take my medicine for 2 days while I was off because I got occupied with other things and didn't have the leaving the house at a certain time
Right.
benchmark to check my medicine organizer thingy.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I finished my catalog in Splatoon 3, which I was worried about, and so now I just need to keep in prep. Well, actually, I should do some Salmon Run to try to get a good version of the hat, but mostly preparing for the Big Run and Splatfest finale for the thing. They released patch notes for the patch that's coming out for it, and apparently they finally added some quality of life features that have been desired for a long time, such as a way to earn salmonid scales without necessarily always beating the salmonid, and what was the other thing? There's something else. Anyway, of course, it's the very end of the thing. Oh yeah, they made it a little easier to get the Splatfest float pictures after a Splatfest, so that's nice. Because you normally only get those if you win a 333 times battle, and you have to do well enough in a number of 100 times battles to get into a 333 times battle, I think, or something like that. And I generally have a generously 50% win rate, so anyway. So yeah, that's been going well. That said, my actual gameplay recently has largely been yesterday they finally released a collection of the DS Castlevanias, so I've been working through that because I did get the other ones, but it was mostly because I wanted this one because those are some of my favorite games, so there's that. Been having fun, although I'm only so far. I thought I was halfway. I'm probably closer to a third of the way through Dawn of Sorrow right now. Unfortunately, you can't connect versions, so there's no way for me to buy a used version from GameStop to steal souls from, because you need a lot of souls to get the good weapons in this one.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that. In our Sunday Pathfinder game, we finally finished a magazine module that was kind of intended to be a one-shot, but ended up taking about 7 sessions. Because I think it was intended to be longer than we thought it was intended to be, but still, we don't go quickly, and this one did not do a very good job of broadcasting when and where you were expected to be taking breaks. Because you're only expected to have 3 or 4 fights in a day, I think, and this had a lot of encounter spaces. But like travel between them was non-linear, kind of. It was a monastery that was like a martial arts monastery that had been infested with undead, and undead also at the higher levels inflict a lot of nasty things like disease and negative levels and ability score damage. Which, if you don't have a dedicated healing cleric, are a pain in the ass to repair. We have a cleric who is decent at healing, but he's also a goblin cleric of a fire god, so a little bit more on the burnies. And I think that's about all I've got that's important.
All right. All right. So as I told everybody, I'm doing things a little differently this week. I'm kind of doing and podcasters have been doing since the late 90s, which is simultaneously broadcasting on multiple platforms. I am now on TikTok. I am Mac Paladin, aka Micaiah Paladin, as you're seeing on the live. So again, I'm reintroducing myself, so to speak, because you've never seen me on TikTok before, at least not live. You've seen clips of me and my cats doing all sorts of wackadoodle stuff, and I am broadcasting live, of course, from my little stand-up podcasting studio here. I have my microphone mounted on a pedestal over here, and I have my ring light and my camera over there, and we're doing all kinds of fun stuff. And of course, you can see my streaming room here, which of course has sound panels and different lighting and LED signs that say things like Fallout, and I have a Legend of Zelda one over here. And of course, I'm wearing my dollar store cosplays, as I like to call it. I've been ordering t-shirts and things off of Temu to try and give some visual appeal. My dollar store Marica sunglasses, and of course my Chicago Cubs hat, which this is the clean version that I bought specifically for broadcasting live on the internet. My 18-year-old driving hat, as I like to call it when I'm at work, is hanging comfortably in the living room and looking disgusting as always. But I will never throw that hat away because I was wearing it when the Cubbies won the World Series in 2016.
Oh, so there you go. Yep.
So I will never dispose of that. But I am of course Chicago area born. I was born in Naperville, Illinois. I lived 26 years in Chula Vista, California. San Diego adjacent, if you will. And I've spent the last 19 and a half years here in Tucson with a brief sojourn to Mobile, Alabama.
Sounds like a mistake.
You could make that argument, and I won't elucidate on the reasons why on this broadcast. So that's kind of the rundown. I do retro gaming. I am a novelist, an illustrator, an animator. I have my own studio, which is has no shortage of drama and treachery, as Adam will no doubt tell you at some point. He's been here for all 22 years of it. We've been friends since 2002 when we met at the Lounge Forums.
That was a long time ago.
That's right. And we've been podcasting together for the last 15 years off and on since April of 2009. We started on Tax Day 2009. The very first episode of Moonhawk Studios Presents premiered on TalkShoe. It migrated to YouTube. It was on Ustream, Livestream, all manner of technologies, and has finally settled now on Twitch, where it is broadcast on the Fragments of Silicon channel, which is a sister show hosted by my good friend Adam. And of course, the Golics and Petty Fan are there doing game reviews and talking to indie devs and everything in your vertical slice of gaming, I think was the slogan you came up with, right?
We dropped that after the show broadcasted out more than once a week.
Well,
that's because it was a week. Anyway, we still do that. It's just not the tagline.
Right. Do you have a tagline now?
No.
Not really.
Well, we'll workshop that. But yeah, so for
our tagline is we're not cool enough for a tagline.
Your tagline is we're working on it, TM.
Anyway.
All right. The only thing that I have worthy of note this week, as far as like personal news, is that I've been getting the pieces together. I was at Desiree Industries the other day, and I found a GameCube compatible Wii without its component parts. So I have a new power adapter, official Nintendo, and a Nintendo Wii component cable so that I get a little better video quality out of it. And we'll see if that actually works. But if it does, it's half. My total investment is half the price of what I would have bought it for used at Bookman's, because they are charging $90 for a Wii currently. So I feel like $15 for the unit and $20 for the replacement cables is a good deal. What else have I got going on? We released the polished teaser act and opening credits for Starship Moonhawk: The Death of Perseus, which is the first episode of season 1 of the animated series. As I said, in the studio, we've had some unpleasantness with my former staff and or cohorts and or roommates. And so I'm keeping what we've done so far, but some of the materials, unfortunately, are going to have to be completed by other parties. I've had a cycling of voice actors come in and out. Baby kitty right here. This is Snowy. Yeah, he's Snowy. This is the baby kitty that survived the storms. Pingu
I was just about to
babies.
ask. That's a new name.
Pingu had 4 babies, and unfortunately 3 of them didn't make it, but Snowy here survived, and she is purty.
I'm guessing very white.
She is very white, but she does have a little bit of gray striping on the bed, so that way she doesn't fuss.
Let me put it this way: she probably wasn't named after the weather in Arizona.
No, I kind of figured that.
The 1/16 of an inch of snow that we have here per annum.
Or at least that part of Arizona. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's mountainous areas that are a bit higher in elevation.
But
not there.
Tucson is surrounded by 3 mountain ranges, and we're 2,200 feet up. Of course we get cold weather and cold snaps and snap freezes and stuff like that. But yeah, so that's the newest addition to my little family here in the household. Pingu and Inky time share between being inside and outside so that they can look after Snowy. And then, of course, Tippy and Doodles are here to stay, much to my eternal chagrin. Hi, Doodles. So, yeah, so fun times for everybody involved. I'm sure there's going to be more to say. I'm looking at some more arcade equipment, and I've got a boatload of stuff on Temu that I wish to purchase that will further enhance the channel. And hopefully I'll actually start putting up clips of Blue Mondays, which is my current active stream on Twitch. Besides this podcast, obviously, we don't clip the podcast because it's just like one long contiguous thing. And of course, finding individual snippets, unless somebody clips it during the actual live broadcast, is kind of difficult because the visual is merely a title card.
Also, sometimes clips can be taken out of context for interviews like this, and we don't want that.
Right. Actually, you may want to consider disabling clipping on your channel entirely.
Probably.
But yeah, but of course, on Twitch, I'm Mac Paladin. And we are currently broadcasting on twitch.tv/Fragments of Silicon. Again, I'm not in a position to be typing this into chat, so I apologize for that in advance, but I'm sure everybody will find it in my bio on my page if they favorite this or if they follow me or whatever.
Content in bio. Wait, what?
Yeah, it's the one with the watery icon or something, right? It's the sweat drop icon. Is that the sweating icon?
My.
Yeah. Moving on. So that's pretty much it for my news. Again, this is an evolving process. I will also be promoting my VTubing channel as well, which will be returning on Thursdays and Fridays, hopefully very, very soon. I'm going to be taking a brief vacation to San Diego for a few days, and then I will be back to normal schedule the second week of September. So, yay! Adam, I will be trying to get here for the Wednesday night broadcast. Last time I came back on Thursday. I'm going to come back on Wednesday because I want to make it back before the rent is due. Yeah.
that's a good reason to get back.
Yeah, exactly. So, anybody wants to drop a rose, you have my eternal gratitude. Gosh, I think that's it. Without too much further ado, let me step back here because I'm an old man, and even though I'm looking at it on a 50-inch television set here, I still have to squint at it. Let's see.
Do you need one of those magnifiers yet?
I have one for tech work because I was a computer technician for 25 years. All right, let's see. Well, also I was missing last week, so I have to skip over a line on the Google Doc here. All right, so this week we have on the podcast for you Richard Savino of the Flying Kick Network, and I thought I heard another voice on there, so we may have another person lurking with us as well. RIchado. I'm sorry, I said that wrong because I can't read. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, man.
RIchado or
Ricardo.
Ricardo. Okay, so somebody just doesn't know how to fucking spell on my Google Doc here. Okay, now that we've got that cleared up,
it might have been Google's spell check.
I have no idea, but you put RIchado, so I doubt that. Welcome to the show. Tell us about yourself and what you produce.
Well, I'm from Brazil, and I'm a content producer. Exclusively, I produce content exclusively about beaten up games, which is a passion of mine since 1987.
All right. Short and sweet, to the point.
I'm not that great to talk about myself, but I'm 46 years old. I'm married, have 2 kids. As I said, 2 redhead and left-handed, so they are a bit recessive. I'm graduated in psychology a long time ago. And I worked a lot in some mental institutions here in Brazil.
Oh.
And then I got tired and started to work on beaten ups.
I see. All right. Well, so we got that out of the way pretty quickly. So, Adam, let's get to it.
Jeez.
We'll see if we can drag some of that information out of you. Also, that redhead thing was a callback to the fact that I was talking about the fact that my eyes have stopped being blue and become kind of hazel, and I'm a redhead, so recessive and dominant genes. All right, Adam, go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, so as you mentioned, you have a fierce passion to the walk and brawler, beat 'em ups, belt scrollers. This genre has a lot of names. Like
that's true.
Yeah, and you mentioned it goes all the way back to 1987 when you played Double Dragon. At least So I'm wondering what carried you across the veil, so to speak. Was there a specific game? Was there a specific title that you wanted to highlight, to make YouTube content for?
It's hard to specify one game. I mean, I have a huge passion for the genre, so and I even avoid to make, you can check on my channel, I even avoid to make lists because I'm the type of person that I don't have favorites. I like a broad selection of games, and it's hard to tell about one in particular. But what brought me to the genre, as I said, back in 1987, was the one and only Double Dragon, the first true beaten up that I saw. It's interesting because Renegade, which was released a little before than Double Dragon, I only saw, I guess, 2 years after Double Dragon, so I found the game extremely dated, let's put it that way. But Double Dragon was something that really um, make me pay more attention to games. Up to then I was what 8, 9 years old at the time, so games were just a small pastime in my life. And when I met Double Dragon, oh yeah, I want to do that a little more. Guys.
Hey, I was
Adam?
to ask, is everybody here? I think Adam might be having
Okay,
technical
sorry.
issues.
Yeah, Adam drifted off a bit.
Oh,
Adam, you there? Oh, there you are.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can now.
Yeah, now we can hear you.
yeah.
No. Anyway,
Yep.
okay. Well,
It would not be a Mac Paladin. It would not be a Mac Paladin production if there wasn't some kind of technical difficulties going on here.
anyway, what I'm trying to find here is what made you want to make YouTube videos about Brawler?
Oh, the lack of content on the genre. There's a ton of channels here that on YouTube that talks about indie games in general or games in general, and are, those are channels that cover a broad selection of genres. And when they, I mean, I don't wanna be sound, I don't know, cocky maybe, but when you have these broad gaming channels, it's hard to really learn about some specific genres, because people play a broad selection, so I don't think they uh, specialize in one genre. And I missed that for beaten ups because it's a very complex genre. It's not just walk right and beat the guy in front of you. So when I was looking for reviews, I saw people saying, yeah, it gets boring after 3 or 4 levels. And I was, oh my God, I guess you don't understand the point here. So I decided to create a channel for people like me who were looking for this type of content, a more in-depth look on beaten ups. So yeah, since there was none, I had to do it.
Okay, I can certainly see the logic there. You felt that this was an underserved genre, and you felt the need to fill the gap in, so to speak. Like,
Yeah.
and I can definitely see that since brawlers are, they used to be a popular genre about 30 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
But recent times, well, honestly, I think they've been more alive than they were, say, in the PlayStation 2 era.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
It's one of those genres that's never going to get the AAA treatment anymore, but there are those who definitely enjoy the genre and who've been making games in it.
I don't even think it needs a triple A treatment. I think that the indie scene has been doing amazing work with these games. You take games like Streets of Rage 4 or River City Girls or Fighting Rage. Those are amazing games with very high production values. So really, I honestly don't want triple A treatment for these games. The triple A industry nowadays isn't in its best shape, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
It depends. Yeah, it depends on how you look at things, I suppose. But also I
I
can
mean, take a look
definitely.
at
Um,
take a look at Street Fighter 6. I'm not a fighting game player, so I didn't pay attention to the industry until the release of this game because it called the attention of everybody. But if you want to play with a bunch of characters, you have to pay extra for it. It's a common practice on the industry, I know, but it's something that still shocks me a little bit, you know.
Yeah, the
So
game is the game is
I don't think beaten ups need that.
the game is incomplete until you pay extra. So you pay $60 for a game, and then all of a sudden you have to pay another 15, $20 to unlock all of its features. Is a somewhat annoying feature.
Yeah, yeah. And you take Streets of Rage 4, it costs about $25 and you can unlock up to 17 characters without paying extras. I mean, there's a small DLC, but it adds a lot of content, so it's worth. It's not like just one character, you know.
Mm-hmm.
right. That how do I put this? I suppose it's a bit interesting from my perspective that you're not a fighting game fan, considering how much crossover there is between the brawlers and the fighting games. Especially since very famously, Final Fight spawned out of Street Fighter, and kind of got backported into Street Fighter.
Yeah, yeah. I just don't like the contained place you play with fighting games, you know. I like to have more freedom of movement. I like to walk up and down and uh, have the space to just walk around, to run away from the enemy. Fighting games are too fast, too quick for me. You know, I don't have more the reflex or the reaction time to play this type of games anymore.
Yeah, I get arthritis wrist myself. I have a hard time with button mashers. I have a Street Fighter 2 one-up replica machine in my closet, my arcade closet, and every time I play that game, 3 fights in, my elbow is killing me.
Yeah, I know how you feel.
Get the icy hot.
Right? Smells like a Ben Gay factory around here.
Mm.
That's a Heartbreak Ridge reference, just for those of you who like vintage cinema. Now that 1983 is 41 years old. It
Neat.
legally qualifies as vintage cinema.
Mm. I
Oh boy.
suppose given the content that you produce, I should ask: have you covered any Brazilian brawlers?
Oh yeah, a few. There was one called I forgot the name in English. Oh, Pulling No Punches about the COVID pandemic and people who didn't want to comply with the safety measures, and four girls took the situation on their
Also,
hands, you know.
yes, the subtitle of my autobiography, How I Got Delta Variant in 2020 by Michael Prokop.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, there were a few. The problem here in Brazil is that producing games is very expensive. You know, we have a lot of taxes and we don't have a ton of, let's say, material to work with. People who want to produce games here needs to learn how to speak and read English. Otherwise, it will be very difficult. And everything here is extremely expensive. Just to give you guys an idea, PS5 here today costs around $1,000.
Yikes!
So the industry
Yeah.
is here because of that. You have to have a lot of money to start making games.
I suppose so, but we've met quite a few Brazilian developers in our time.
This is a
Probably
subject near the economies of scale is the subject near and dear to my heart because I employ a Brazilian artist to work on a couple of my web comics, and he's always telling me
nice.
about the exchange rates between the Brazilian real and and the U.S. dollar. So he's grateful for our work together.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's nice to work and earning dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I
I mean, I'm in the
Um,
same situation. I work with a lot of foreign companies, so I don't complain too much, you know.
I think one of the other difficulties is like getting shipping of equipment to Brazil. The outlets are limited. It's not like you can just call Amazon or something like that. You have to use stuff like Alibaba Express and and Wayfair and other lesser known services for that kind of stuff. So the prices are astronomical on those services, especially when shipping to countries outside the U.S. and the UK.
Oh yeah. And we can use Amazon, but for example, I will buy something that costs $100. The shipping, handling, and tax fees, of course, will end up adding another 100, $120 extra.
yeah, and I think there are some pretty hefty tariffs in Brazil as well.
Yeah. Usually, for electronics, is around 9%, I guess, around that. Yeah.
Still, I found the Brazilian dev scene to be fairly burgeoning and large, especially compared to some other Latin American countries.
Yeah, and we are very noisy, you know. We want to make sure that everybody know we are Brazilians.
Nothing wrong with that. I
Oh
uh, I
no, of course not.
I play Garena Free Fire, which is supposed to be the biggest TPS in all of South America right now. Um, it
Yeah.
passes even like PUBG and all of those
No,
other shooter type games.
plus, we know some Brazilian devs who are brawling fans in their own right, like Cuba.
Oh yeah. Qbyte works with a lot of develop. They publish more. I guess they developed only one game, 99 Vidas, and
Yeah,
the other ones they publish from small developers. But they make a great job with that. You know, they brought a bunch of Super Nintendo beaten ups, obscure Super Nintendo beaten ups to modern consoles and PCs. So that's always
yeah.
great.
I mean, they also they modernized the Breakers game.
Yeah. They released that nice package
Yeah,
with
there's
online,
also
rollback,
yeah,
a lot of stuff.
there's also War Dogs Red Return published, which was another Brazilian dev might have
Yeah. Mito.
Nito that.
Yeah, I know one of the devs, nice guy.
Yeah,
But
we've met him.
they also oh really?
Yeah, we've met them. We've met Qbyte. Met some other Brazilian devs. We've met a lot of Latin American devs. Like,
Oh, that's
um,
great.
so certainly a lot of passion there. Um, especially given how fledgling everything is in comparison to more established areas.
Oh yeah.
Um, anyway, so along those lines, how do you keep up with, for lack of a better term, the brawling new? Because there are quite a few brawlers out there, but not necessarily a lot of visibility shown on them.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I usually I have a contact with a lot of developers and publishers, so I'm always getting first-hand emails and tips and small rumors, things like that. And I use a lot of Twitter for that. Hashtag beaten ups is very helpful. So I find a lot of new developers this way.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It's a lot of what we do on the other program. Um, it's just we don't confine ourselves to one genre. So, as you mentioned, like the difficulty with with being so generalized is it is absolutely impossible to keep up with everything, especially on the
Oh yeah,
indie.
oh yeah.
Um, but I suppose we should go through how you go about making a video about a brawler, given that you felt dissatisfied with the content that was being produced for this genre. What are you doing with your videos to what you feel to correct that mistake?
So first of all, every time I receive a new game, the rest of my days until the review will be exclusively for this game. So I usually go deep in the mechanics and looking for details in the graphics and the sound and even the story of the game when it matters because usually go save the girl and that's it. So, but in my videos, I try to, how do I put it? To explain what really makes that particular game good or what it lacks to be a good beaten up because there are some boxes that you have to tick to make a good beaten up. It's not, as I said, not just walk to the right and beat some goons. You have to have a you have to think a beaten up like a chess game. Your character is three or four pieces of a chess, and your enemies will be the rest of the pieces, and you have to know how to make the player move in a certain way to break that situation in his favor, and you need to make the player think about what he will do next, not just walk right and punch the next guy until he dies. The good games actually forces you to avoid that type of behavior during the gameplay. And these are things that I try to highlight in my videos and explain to my viewers because I mean we need people understanding the mechanics so they can make good choices when purchasing these games.
Hmm. That is the thing I definitely remember from not so much reviews of 90s brawlers, more guides. You know, uh, like on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4 for the Super Nintendo, for example. I remember there was a guide that described, what moves do, how to do them, and why they were important. Especially
Yeah,
important for that game because there was one section, the Technodromes, the end of stage 4, battle with a Shredder. On hard mode, the foot soldiers all had shields, and you had to do a certain move in order to break that shield. And it's something that a neophyte might necessarily know.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
So I imagine that's the kind of thing that you are injecting into your reviews. Like,
throwing foot soldiers
Yeah,
into the camera.
Right.
Shredded.
yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes even a little bit more nuanced than that. Just
Mhm.
explaining what the game does that is right, like how good the hitboxes are, or
Yeah.
how freedom you have when creating your own combos or not, or I don't know, or what lacks in the game. Sometimes the game has great graphics, a great set of moves for your characters, but the
Ooh,
enemies are lackluster.
ooh.
So
I know what you're talking about. Probably one of the most hard to pinpoint, but you know it when you see it. Things that can go wrong, and that's what they call oomph. Like making sure
yeah,
the hits have weight to them. That they feel good. Definitely
yeah,
encountered
yeah.
some fighting games where that's been the case. Some fighting games or some brawlers, that are even part of some series or some ports, um, that are not necessarily good with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not uncommon to see beaten ups now, even nowadays, that that feel of beating someone is not satisfying enough. That's something that I always comment in my video, how good to it is this feeling. Because this is extremely important. You must feel without really feeling that that impact. And that's something that Capcom did wonderfully in the 90s. All Capcom games have an amazing feel of that you are really hurting your enemy. And
Hmm.
I mean, you guys like fighting games. Street Fighter is a game that does that
Yeah.
wonderfully.
Yeah. It's like I can't think of a Capcom brawler that lacked in that direction. At least not any of their arcade brawlers. Like, yeah.
No,
I mean,
no. I
Final
mean, even
Fight.
even Konami with the first TMNT, that
Yeah.
first game, that the impact wasn't that great. Even when compared with other Konami games. That one was a first try, of course, but
Yeah.
Capcom in their first try was Final Fight. So actually was Street Fighter before that.
Yeah, the thing about Final Fight though is it's just a bit too primitive for my taste. Like you can really tell that it was kind of early in the whole brawler genre, or Capcom brawlers in particular. Like you
Really?
compare Final Fight to like Knights of the Round. You can see
I
the
didn't think.
evolution.
I mean, Final Fight and Streets of Rage really play very similarly, so I'm not sure what you're on about there.
It's
I
more
played the entire Final Fight series, and
it's more in relation to things that came later. It's like how I've never been able to get into the first Streets of Rage because Streets of
destroying
Rage 2 and
cars, wrecking buildings, destructible environments.
Streets of Rage 2 and 3 just feel is so much better than Streets of Rage 1. Like,
Well, I mean, okay, but I mean, Street Fighter, aka,
uh, Street Street
hang
Fighter
on,
is its own bit of a kettle of fish, let's say. Especially if we're talking about the gap between Street Fighter 1 and 2.
I
Like,
mean, for a long time, the only way you could get it in the home market was to get the TurboGrafx 16 and play Fighting Street, which was a total piece of shit.
right. Here's the thing. That was the best of the Street Fighter ports. Because
Yeah,
it also saw a lot.
PC version,
Yeah,
double thumbs
yeah.
down.
Not just the DOS, the Amiga, like all those computer ports were pretty turgid. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't say that the original arcade version of Street Fighter was much better. Like,
Right.
mainly because once again it was kind of a bit too far back on its evolutionary ladder, but it's also the game wasn't laid out very well because they had to they built it around those fucking pressure buttons.
You know.
Oh yeah.
But of course, there's another brawler company, and that was Sega. It wasn't just Streets of Rage. But
Yeah,
I think
they made. There was also Golden Axe from them.
Yeah, Golden Axe, and you can even throw Altered Beast there. Like, it's maybe a bit more of a platformer than the other games, but certainly still I still call it a brawler.
Yeah, it was more an evolution from games like Kung Fu Masters.
Well, it still has a bit of still has a bit of that belt scroll, pure belt scroller in it. The likes of Kung Fu Master and Vigilante and Trojan.
I've got a handful of these retro I've got these retro TVcade machines, the Sega Genesis classics on eBay, and so I'm trying to get a hold of that because they're those 6-in-1s that have like Sonic the Hedgehog, Golden Axe, Altered Beast. There's one that actually comes with a steering wheel that's called that has Outrun, and then there's a dual controller version that has Street Fighter II Championship Edition and Super Ghouls and Ghosts, or Ghouls and Ghosts for the Sega Genesis, which I thought was an interesting combination. So, as part of my whole retro gaming shtick, I'm trying to get a hold of those units so they're less cumbersome than busting out the full-on Sega Genesis unit every time I want to stream something from that era.
And I think you were mentioning IREM.
Oh yeah,
like
Fighting Spirit.
There's also Technos. Which gave us not just Double Dragon, but of course Kunio-kun.
That's true.
Yes, also a great series.
It's a bit of a weird series because Kunio-kun isn't necessarily a genre. I mean, there's a lot of brawlers, but Kunio-kun also includes a lot of sports games.
Yeah. Some very fun ones.
Yeah, like Super Dodgeball and Nintendo World Cup come to mind.
I regret not buying the upright arcade machine of Super Dodgeball for $400 when it was available at Bookman's.
That was probably a bargain.
Too. Oh yeah. It was in rough shape, but it worked. The coin slots were there. The change bucket was still in the machine. Just the particle board needed a little TLC. Worked perfectly, and the CRT was in excellent shape.
That is unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't into the whole arcade collecting thing yet. That's a relatively new affectation of my personality.
Well, I'd imagine because the thing is, collecting arcades not just expensive but cumbersome, especially if you're into the whole arcade cabinet portion of that. Because you can actually. You can get into arcade collecting and not necessarily be into the cabinet portion if you're just looking for the PCBs or the cartridges, depending on the system we're talking about here.
Yeah, I'm after a Pandora's box right now. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's a 2-joystick arcade simulator. So that plugs into your TV via HDMI. So it's about $100, so I feel like it's a good value because it comes packed with about 120 games.
Anyway,
it's very popular here in Brazil.
Anyway, I suppose squaring away back to the present. So, what have you been working on in terms of content in recent times, or what might be upcoming?
Well, actually, recently I have even been lacking a little bit on content because I'm working on a game based on the Phantom, the superhero, and it has consumed a lot of my time. But right now I'm
As it
working
should.
on a what?
I
Sorry.
said as it should. There's
Yeah. Right
nothing
now I'm
wrong with
working on a video. Oh no, no. Talking about my favorite Double Dragon game.
it.
Hmm.
Yeah, we haven't been having a lot of it together with my work. I have been a little bit absent.
I suppose that makes sense. Um, I suppose I should ask, what is your favorite Double Dragon?
Well, Super Double Dragon for the Super Nintendo, the Japanese version, Return of Double Dragon. I guess it's
Hmm.
my favorite. There's a lot of there's a lot of nostalgia involved when we're talking favorites. It's not the most technical advanced game in the series, but I mean I can resist that game, you know.
Actually,
Super Double Dragon's a really underrated Double Dragon game. Really underrated brawler in general. Like,
Oh yeah.
like
I was going to say we should also point out that there are going to be localization differences in some of the titles of some of these games due to copyright issues between the United States and Latin America and Japan and so on and so forth. So some of the titles we may say may not necessarily jive with each other.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. That being said, like Double Dragon, pretty much retained its identity around the world.
Right, but I'm just saying if we mention something and you don't understand what the hell we're talking about, chat, feel free to ask for clarification.
Uh-huh. Well, once again, that's the Kunio-kun series in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's got a few different brawlers under a few different names. Like the one that people probably most know, River City Ransom.
Oh yeah.
We got
is
a
one.
bunch of the games of that franchise in the U.S. None of them were localized as members of the same series.
No. Well, I mean, we mentioned some of the others like Super Dodgeball and Nintendo World Soccer. These are the same franchise. It's just different names because of different localizers.
Oh.
As far as a lot of people in the U.S. were concerned, it's just a sprite style.
Right.
I wondered about that.
Or at least it was back in the day. Like these days, the Kunio-kun connections are much more brought up. Not just Kunio-kun, but Double Dragon, like the River City Girls franchise, for example, has like Double Dragons and Marion in them. Not in the Kunio art style either, but not quite. The Double Dragon. It's a bit weird. Like,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, anyway, so this game of the Phantom, is it a brawler in and of itself, or is it working in another genre?
Oh no, it's a bit enough. I wouldn't know how to work on another type of game.
I suppose that does make sense. And is this unofficially licensed work?
Oh yeah. It is being created by Art of Play, an Australian studio, and
Hmm.
they talk with Kingfisher Syndicate and got the license to create this beaten up. And they called me to help them to refine the combat and this type of stuff.
Hmm. And I suppose I should ask, how familiar are you with the Phantom character?
Well, a lot more now than I was before starting this job. I mean, I knew the character, of course, but I saw the 1996 movie, but nothing that I was
Ooh,
knowledgeable about, you know.
ooh, did they make you learn about the 2040 variant?
Oh yeah, yeah. I watched the 1946 series. I know a lot
Mm,
now.
yes, because Phantom 2040 had a very underrated Super Nintendo game. Like,
Oh, I
I
Oh
remember
recall
yeah.
that.
seeing that game in Nintendo Power.
yeah, I think I saw advertisements for it or something like that. Do remember seeing it in motion, but never had it. Like, unfortunately, like the
I
Phantom
played
2040 in general didn't do all that well, but it did better than some other properties. It got to finish its story and went 2 seasons. More than like the
yeah,
Pirates of
yeah.
Darkwater got.
Mhm.
I'm still bitter about that.
Uh,
30 years.
criminally underrated series.
Yes. Anyway, so I suppose I should ask. I'm trying to think of the right way to, when you do get back to making YouTube videos, do you have a specific brawler in mind for your next video?
Well, there's a couple of games being released next month. One is called Powerborn. That will be well, sort of a triple A beaten up. It's a live service beaten up, filled with
Hmm.
fancy stuff. That I'm curious about. I can't judge the game yet because I didn't play it, but I'm curious about it. It has an expensive world, and the devs are promising 10 years of support. I mean, uh,
Like threats, 10
this for
years of
me,
darkness.
Now I'm just
yeah,
having flashbacks to
uh,
Dungeon Fighter Online.
Oh, man.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the guys are working hard. The game looks beautiful, but you know, I personally don't like this type of talk. You know, we're gonna support for 10 years. Or, okay, just release the game, then we talk about the support. You know,
May not need it.
yeah, you know. So I mean,
May only need
it's what it what was we were talking about triple A studio mentality. You know, that's not something I'm very fan of.
it's like
And
it's like
there's oh, go on, go.
I was just gonna say it's a little bit like when Namco brings over one of the Tales series to the mobile platforms, and they're like, "Oh yeah, the game's been going on in Japan for 5 seasons," and then it gets canceled after 6 to 9 months in the U.S.
Yeah, yeah, or that EA game Anton, something like that. They promise years of support, and the game was released, and nobody played. Or Concord, I guess, the newest one that is failing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't like too much promises, you know, just release a game, a good game, and talk support later. And there's the Karate Kid game beaten up coming in September 20th, I guess. Yes, yeah, September 20th. That looks pretty cool. Pretty cool. You can play with Mr. Miyagi, so I'm sold.
Oh yeah. Right.
I don't know if you guys saw it. It's called Karate Kid Street Rumble. Let me grab the link and send to you guys here on Discord.
Sure. Like,
Looks pretty sweet, man. Oh my god, I almost went deaf because of my headphones. So I send the link on general. You guys take a look when you can, but looks pretty sweet. I contacted the developer asking for a review key. Let's see.
Hope it works out better than the Cobra Kai game.
Oh, please. The first one was okay, I guess. Really not for me because I had a small feeling of mobile games. You know, you had to wait your
Yeah,
move to recharge and you press a button and the move unleashed a ton of moves at the same time. I mean, it felt a bit cheap, but yeah, it wasn't a bad game, not at all. The second one, we don't talk about the second one in this house, you know.
I can understand why.
Oh, it doesn't exist. I mean, I'm not a big fan of 3D beat-em ups to start with, so a
I
broken
know.
that a
I
broken
think
piece of software.
I don't know. The '90s gave us a few good ones. Like anyway, yeah. So we should probably wrap this up given the time.
All right.
At least, all right. I see if my colleagues here have any further questions for you. One last batch here.
Nah,
Well,
I'm good.
I just want to make sure that we didn't miss any pertinent details that you were going to ask because of our tangents. So that's one
No,
thing.
no.
Yeah, I think I'm satisfied if there's nothing else.
I think I'm good too.
All right. Ricardo, is there anything you'd like to specifically promote before we move on to our next segment? Anything coming up?
There's my video about my top 10 favorite Double Dragons, where I will dive a little bit deep, not too much in each one of my 10 favorite games. I spoiled a little bit when you asked which was my favorite.
There you go. There
I
you
mean,
go.
look,
But
as long as it's not 10 hours long.
oh no. It's about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, something like that.
Indeed.
But I mean, I spoiled the number one, but if you want to know why, watch the videos.
Mhm.
All right. Let's make sure we get Ricardo's YouTube up in the chat there so that way everybody can see that. That will be on the Fragments of Silicon Twitch channel for those of you tuning in on TikTok. So keep that in mind.
Nice.
And with that, I think that's an interview.
You could
All
sort
right.
one out by now.
That was great.
Everybody got quiet, so I was just like, well, okay, we're off the air. Ricardo, I really appreciate you coming out and chatting with us. I had a really lovely conversation. And if I weren't an old man incapable of standing for an hour and a half straight, I would keep going with this podcast. But that's how I've chosen to do this format. You are, of course, welcome
Oh,
to
it was a
comment.
pleasure to be here, man.
You are, of course, welcome if you have the time to stick with us and commentate on our entertainment segment. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about.
All right.
It's not like entertainment news ever happens at all, right, guys?
Depends
All
on the
right.
season.
So that brings us to our third segment of tonight's podcast, and that is entertainment news. Adam, unleash the fury, because I know there is.
Well, the first thing that we got to get to is something that we've been holding back because we've been waiting for you, Mac. And that's the further movements on the Paramount merger.
Yes, the
Which,
new bid has been withdrawn,
and actually has fallen apart.
Again?
I
thought they were moving forward with the Skydance thing because
they are. They're doing Skydance. Yeah.
The other one was withdrawn. The
right. That's what I was getting to. Actually, that's what I meant.
Part. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant by falling apart. That when we spoke last week, we quickly mentioned about the Brofman, the deal from Edgar Brofman Jr. that was put up, but over the course of the last week, that bid was retracted because, well, Skydance told Paramount and no certain. What's that?
I smell bluff because what happened was Skydance threw a tantrum and said they were going to withdraw their own bid if they proceeded with this, and it immediately disintegrated.
Yeah, it's Skydance told Paramount in no uncertain terms, stop talking to him or we're walking.
Yep.
Choose a side, damn it. And it's
I feel like it was a bluff to try to ratchet up the deal. It was Sherry Redstone playing mogul once again. That's my theory.
I mean, it depends on how serious it was going to be. Brofman sweetened the deal up, but that's probably maybe some of the shake up. But then Skydance said, "Yeah, we're done if you're going to be serious about this." And Edgar Brofman saw the writing on the wall, and it's like, all right, fine.
He's like, "Shit or get off the can? I'll get off the can."
It's like, okay, I'll take my Seagrams and go home.
Crazy.
Yeah, well, so that's that. And now basically it's just a case of, will this thing get past the regulators?
I don't see why there would be any problem.
Yeah, and also, that, and also how much blood is going to be spilled in the interim.
That's just something that happens. With mergers.
I would have seen more regulatory problems if Warner Brothers had been serious about bidding, but because
Universal Comcast maybe possibly too.
Yeah, because that's a Disney level consolidation of the industry.
Yeah, this is more private equity getting involved.
Yeah, and Disney was already getting the side eye for their acquisitions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Skydance. I think Skydance is smaller than Paramount.
I think with the financial problems that I've been looking at the major franchises that have been successful with Paramount lately, and they've had Skydance attached to them in almost every case. Star Trek, Mission Impossible, the Top Gun movie, all of that. It seems like they were partnering with Ellison to get these franchises to the theaters before Paramount went bankrupt. Was basically what was going on. Was they were already in cahoots. So it just so I don't know, but you could be right. But there was definitely reason to. I don't know why they would even considered anybody else, because they were already leaning on Skydance for support as it was. So.
Right.
I didn't have any other point. That was it.
Yeah. Well, I don't think anyone's arguing.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's arguing that Paramount hasn't been in trouble for the past, good while. It's just, in the totality of their assets, they're the bigger company.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
it's just lately they've been leaning a lot on Skydance in order to succeed, in order to get their tentpole franchises to the market in the first place. So at this point, it seemed like a logical move. I'm not really contemplating the enormity of it. I'm just saying that going any other direction seems illogical, considering how much stuff is tied to this company.
Right.
How much important stuff, because there's chaff in this whole thing that isn't tied to Skydance that is along for the ride. Well,
that's always the concern.
It's funny because once the deal was withdrawn, I saw the first promo spot for the second season of Frasier. Because I was not seeing anything about, because these are like sitcoms and stuff like that are comparatively low budget moneymakers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so, and not to say that Kelsey Grammer is cheap. He's not. And that's why they only do 10 episodes a season of the new Frasier, but it was kind of their breakout hit. It was kind of their breakout hit last year.
Well, that and that's how many. That's how streaming goes in terms of episodes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so maybe not the smoothest transition, but in a good example of spare bits of a company that might necessarily be wanted by the new people.
Mm-hmm.
Amazon is in talks to sell MGM Alternative. Now that's now, despite the name, that's not MGM, say, indie units, like Focus Features or something like that.
Right.
No. MGM Alternative, they're the ones who make all the quote-unquote non-scripted programming, i.e. they're the reality show unit of MGM. Which, in that world, they are the ones who power some pretty heavy hitters that you have heard of. NBC's The Voice, CBS's Survivor, ABC's Shark Tank, Fox's Beach Dam. Yeah, it's like I said, these are about as heavy as they get for linear, traditional, reality TV.
Right, particularly Survivor.
Yeah,
because that's been on the air since the year 2000. So about to close it on its 50th season. So
yeah, like I said, it's quite the extensive list. Vanderpump Rules, The Real Wives of Beverly Hills, for Bravo, and Reels on Patrol Live. So
yeah, that's pretty much a good amount of the reality television output on television right now.
Yeah. So it looks like it's less Amazon isn't like completely uninterested in this unit, but apparently they've been getting some tantalizing offers for MGM Alternative.
I mean, not surprising considering that list.
Yeah, it's like and the Deadline article has a whole web of how this all works in terms of distribution and ownership, and and basically they've been getting a couple of bids. I just highlight this because this is kind of the best case scenario when you get a unit that's not necessarily favored by new ownership. The worst is, well, what happened at Microsoft recently, when the bunch of Bethesda studios got shut down. And or when Disney shut down a whole bunch of Fox sub-labels, like Fox 2000. So we'll see what happens when Skydance meets Paramount as one merged entity.
Yeah, I'm hoping it'll be some good news for Star Trek, because they really could use some at this point. A lot of stuff went into limbo between the strike and Paramount's financial problems, so the more expensive of their shows are taking a sort of more cautious approach, where they're putting out a little bit less media.
Well, I'm more concerned given the state of the trailer for Starfleet Academy. They saw that and said, yes, that is something that looks releasable.
I haven't seen it yet, so you disagree with that sentiment.
I'm like, well, like the Starfleet Academy trailer was, the Comic-Con one wasn't good.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, what was it? Was it a clip show like the first Star Trek 6 promo back in '91?
No, not that. Like, let me find it.
Yeah, so put that in the private business so I can look at that later. If you, I mean, I can go look it up later, but if you can find that and put it there, I want to take a look at it because I haven't seen it yet. Because I've been following the Star Trek news and everybody was like, Paul Giamatti, yes, Holly Hunter, yes, everybody was super excited about this and all the Discovery cameos, having Dr. Culber continue his story arc and so on and so forth because the series will pick up right where the show pre-Coda ended. So before the 30-year time skip, Starfleet Academy is supposed to pick up.
Sorry, I'm thinking of No, I'm thinking of no, I'm not thinking of Starfleet Academy. I'm thinking of Section 31. That's the one that had the fucking dire trailer.
That whole trailer looked like they dragged it through diarrhea and said, "Put it up, let's do it." Yeah. I still have no idea what the fuck that movie's about.
That's what I'm getting at here. Like
it's like they wanted to focus. So my take on that was it's like they wanted to focus on Emperor Philippa Georgiou and the fact that she's not Starfleet, so because she's from the mirror universe, so it's all debauchery and darkness all the time, which is a tendency that they sometimes lean on in this era of Star Trek to try to make it edgy.
I've noticed.
And the fans don't want edgy. We want hopeful exploration. It's like conflict is fine.
Right.
Blue light on everything is not.
It's something I found very jarring in Starfleet, Star Trek Picard.
Yeah, that was mildly annoying. It's like Federation starships historically have been brightly lit. Dating back to the original series, the Enterprise was brightly lit and psychedelic in its color scheme. There was no reason for them to ever say, you know what we need to do? We need to make sure that everybody who watches this show goes blind. Either with too much light or not enough, and no in between.
Right.
Yeah, and I have a pretty bad astigmatism, so sitting here squinting at this show to try to watch it, it was a little upsetting. Like I had to go and watch clips of various things on YouTube and ratchet them up to 4K on my LG Ultra Gamer Series monitor in order to actually see what the F was going on. Like a lot of people were arguing about, where did the star drive come from? Even though they mentioned it in dialogue, and it's like, well, we didn't see it on screen, therefore it's not canon. And it's like, dialogue counts, but here's the thing. You could, in 4K, you can actually see the registry number and the name of the USS Syracuse on the star drive section. You just can't see it at 1080p or below. So people were arguing over shit like that, which was, and this is, but then again, this is modern fandom. It's like, I'm sure in the next moment or so, we'll be talking about the cancellation of the Acolyte.
I think we already talked about that.
Nobody hates Star Wars more than its fans.
We know.
But it's the same shit with Star Trek. It's the same shit with modern Star Trek. It's like every new generation, every new iteration of Star Trek that comes out, that's not my Star Trek. It's like, and I have to tell people, it's like, look, I hate to be the reasonable sounding old man in the room here, but I remember when TNG came out and they said, if it's not Kirk and Spock, it's not my fucking Star Trek.
Right.
And then
series can contain multitudes.
And then Deep
Space Nine about the reaction of, say, DS9 back in the day.
It's totally not about racism.
Have a legitimate argument that it is not much of a trek because they mostly stay in one place, but it still takes place in the setting and has good characters and stuff. So,
It's also ruining Star Trek because it's too dark.
Yeah. And not because of the lighting. And then of course there's the people that are just mad at it because the lead is black. That old chestnut came back up when Sonequa Martin Green led Star Trek Discovery, because it was like, she's not only a woman, but how dare she be somebody other than a white person? I didn't say that out loud.
Good Lord, Mac.
No, I'm not saying that in my voice. That's why I did the funny voice. Was because that's the quiet part that people weren't saying out loud, but everybody was levying that criticism against the haters. It's like, you don't like her.
I do feel like there's a certain breed of science fiction fan that seems to think that minorities in science fiction is what Aliens is for.
Well, yeah, there is that, but there's also the
frustrating.
But Gollix, the other flip side of the coin is that the only position that women should be in is in sci-fi is draped across the leg of the male protagonist, like in the Star Wars movie poster. Anything else is woke.
I'm not saying it's the only problem. I was just pointing out that one particular thing.
Anything else is woke and therefore broke.
God, I am so sick of hearing that.
Right?
Uh-huh.
I live with a Republican father. I hear it every fucking day.
I promise I'm not going to belabor that point. I've said my piece on it, and I'm just saying that's where it is. But
my hot take is that The Last Jedi was the chance Star Wars had to really have the franchise move forward and do different things, and that got shouted down by way too many people.
History is.
And then the last Skywalker happened.
The rise of Skywalker. The last Skywalker is probably a bit premature, considering they're making another Rey movie. Hopefully, they learned something in the Filoni era. I've made this statement on this show before, and I will make it again. I am going to go out on a limb and say that The Last Jedi will follow in the footsteps of The Empire Strikes Back as being the surprise breakout. Because for those of you who ain't old enough, let's not revise history and say Empire Strikes Back was always considered to be a brilliant piece of media. The critics and the fans alike said that this movie ruined Star Wars for them after the jovial nature of the first film.
Unfortunately, I think a lot of that, what follows it, reflects, in this case, because The Rise of Skywalker was, really bad, that kind of reflects badly backwards, and it's hard for The Last Jedi to express the full potential it had, because they threw all of the potential in the trash and just decided, actually ignore most of that.
Well, and that's where it falls into the Return of the Jedi category. People are not revising history and suggesting in any way, shape, or form that Return of the Jedi was a good film. In fact, most people, when they rewatch the original Star Wars movies, stop at The Empire Strikes Back and just pretend that there wasn't a third film in this trilogy. It was a duology and not a trilogy.
Remember who you're talking to. I like that one.
I know, but I'm just saying a lot of people feel that way because George Lucas interfered too much in the structure of this film, and instead of letting Richard Marquand make the film the way it was supposed to be made, he kept meddling with it. Instead of letting Lawrence Kasdan write a good film and Richard Marquand, chips fall where they may, Lucas was writing and directing this film from the sideline, and it shows. He kept adding and changing stuff midstream, and we need this to sell more toys because I'm in the middle of a divorce right now, and so all of that shenanigans does come across on the film. And the most brilliant thing, of course, is the last 28 minutes of the film. That is great Star Wars. Luke turning to the dark side and looking at it and saying, this is not who I am, and throwing his lightsaber away and saying, I am a true Jedi, I'm a man of peace. Brilliant. So profound was it that it made Vader realize what he needed to do and threw the Emperor down that shaft.
Mm-hmm.
The Rise of Skywalker does not have a moment like that, but it does suffer from a lot of the same problems in that it is trying to shoehorn in a bunch of information because they were knee-jerk responding to the last film. Is a lot of what happened there is that a lot of the changes that went into Return of the Jedi and the Rise of Skywalker were because of negative fan and critic reaction to the previous film. Now, retroactively, people look back upon The Empire Strikes Back and say, fucking A, it's brilliant. And I feel that The Last Jedi, because of the ambitious swings for the fences that Rian Johnson took, 20, 30 years from now will be remembered similarly.
Mm.
The problem that the only real problem that it faced was that everything that happened to Luke to make him the way he was in that film happened off screen.
Mm-hmm.
And they touched on it so briefly in the film itself that we don't invest in it. And I feel like that was the only real failing of that movie.
Also, even then, consider who Luke's teachers of how to be a Jedi were.
Well, but he was also irrational and impulsive and didn't listen to them all the way.
That's true, but also if he's thinking about it, well, let's see, my role models are Old Man Lies a Lot and Swamp Gremlin.
How can I take these guys seriously? I'm being taught by a ghost and a swamp. Yeah, no, I totally get that. You know, and don't think that criticism it shouldn't be levied. But anyway, that's how I feel about it. You know, as far as stuff like more modern stuff like the Acolyte and whatever, I can't. I haven't watched it yet, and I don't know if I will or not. Only because I'm now being told up front before I even got a chance that I'm going to be mad because there isn't going to be a satisfactory resolution to it.
I mean, above all everything else, you know what? I'm not even opposed to Palpatine returning. I'm opposed to the fact that it happened being a throwaway in the setup, and there not being any, like... It should be a big deal that it happened, not just, oh, and now this is some shit we have to deal with.
If they were going to go with Lucas's plot lines, they should have done it for the whole trilogy instead of saying, "Oh, we fouled up and now we need Lucas."
I know that there are debates about the quality of the old books and stuff before Disney, but they did do the Palpatine returned thing, and they made it a big deal, and it took like a trilogy of books the first time, and then it might have happened again and taken a book and a half or something.
Oh, they Timothy Zahn cloned Luke Skywalker. There was multiple clones of Palpatine.
Yeah, but only 2 of them ever really got to be Emperor properly, I think.
That's not that's 2 more than we have now.
I know. No, I'm just saying I don't object. I don't object to it as an element of the story. I just think that dropping it early in the movie is a shit job of using that.
I think if you were going to introduce this amazing big bad of Thrawn, and then you're going to, basically undermine him by bringing back the Emperor, and then undermining him again by bringing in evil clones of Luke Skywalker, and all of that stuff. I don't know. I think people view.
I don't remember the actual order of those events chronologically in the Legends timeline.
They all happen in that trilogy. Everything that I have mentioned is in the Heir to the Empire trilogy. And those are some of the right off the bat. bizarre stuff. You know, the truce at Bakura, the courtship of Princess Leia were all great lead-ups to that point. You know, about talking about cleaning up the remnants of the Galactic Empire and all that stuff. And had they actually committed that to film, I think that would have been a great series. But they didn't. You know, they went somewhere else. You know, now we have Operation Cinder and the whole warlords of the Mandalorian and all that stuff, which kind of cribs some of those notes, but not quite. You know, so I don't know what to tell you. All right, let's move on to whatever other news remnants we have.
I think we're good for. I think we're good for the week.
All right. Well, then, if that's the case, let's bring up the tab here, and we'll talk about what's going on next week. Now, quick notice to everybody here. I'm going to be in San Diego Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. I'm going to try to be back by the show on Wednesday because I also have work to do to make sure I pay the rent on time. But I'm going to be taking a brief, I'm going to be bouncing for a bit, as they say. So Blue Mondays, Shadows Mist is going to carry that on by herself. But I am not going to be here Monday. And then Wednesday is a little up in the air. I should be here because I'm going to enforce the I need to be back in Tucson by 7 p.m. deal. So I can have a minute to rest before we do the show. But assuming all goes according to plan, we will have, let's see, September 4th, Casey Cleese of Second Opinion Games. Now, Adam, do you want to expand on what you've written here?
In terms of, well, they can't see what was transposed.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's just, you know, do your own version of it. Either just read it, or if there's any additional information we should be aware of going into next week.
One of his claims to fame, quote unquote, is reviewing the entire Atari Jaguar library, and I mean like everything, even the the modern day homebrew stuff.
Oh.
And like he has a complete physical collection of all of it.
Okay.
To boot. I mean, that seems to be his field, if you will. A lot of obscure gaming curios. Like he has a lot of Wii U videos. Or highlighting like true Xbox 360 hidden gems. You know, he wishes to give a second opinion on a game. Hence the title of his channel.
Okay, Mac, I checked.
Yes.
The Clone Emperor thing was in the trilogy of comic series Dark Empire, not the ones, not all the clone stuff in Heir to the Empire.
Well, there was a lot of references.
And it takes place about 2 years after the Thrawn trilogy.
Well, Luke, Luuke.
Yes, Luke was from the Hand of Thrawn stuff.
Yeah. So that was definitely bizarre.
No, I'm talking about specifically Clone Palpatine.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad we settled that. But that's it for this week's installment. So thanks again, everybody, for joining us on the Tiki Talks. Here's my heart sign for you, and I hope you all enjoyed the show. And we'll watch the rebroadcast on YouTube. Again, thanks to our guest RIchado for making it a lovely interview and wonderful conversation. We hope to have you back on the show when there is more to talk about. And we're definitely looking forward to next week, assuming that I don't have any delays. If I am not here, again, that link is twitch.tv/fragments of silicon on Twitch. So make sure that you follow that channel and subscribe if you so desire. But that's it for this week. Again, thanks for all the likes, and we'll see you next time. Until then, I'm your host, Mac Paladin. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there, kids.